Good morning and welcome to the David and David on Real Estate podcast. We are today on number 148 and we have Rinku from Push Marketing Group joining us again. Rinku, welcome back.
Amazing to be back. Really enjoyed the last podcast, and great to talk to you to talk to David and David again. I'm gonna change the name of your podcast if it's the last thing I do by the time we're done.
What are we changing it to? You're the marketing expert.
David and David.
And get rid of the real estate.
That's all I need. David and David.
Okay. Well, I love the fact that, that we started off our prior episode, talking a little bit about your history in the clothing business. And we talked about dressing and, whether that's, how you want to present yourself and things. And so my background, just so my family was in the menswear business. My dad was a menswear retailer. My uncle was a menswear retailer. I have a brother-in-law who's a menswear retailer. So, and something they always talk about was dress for success. So while you guys were talking about that, like there's a certain element, I always think you've got to, dress for success. It doesn't mean that has to be your brand, but I think it's sort of a minimum thing, like to let people know that you care and that you're professional in whatever you're doing, whether you're a professional clothier or you're a professional real estate realtor or you're a professional lawyer or a professional marketer. You always think of yourself as a professional, and you have to some degree, look the part. But from what you're telling us, Rinku, like you got to go way beyond that, in terms of creating your own uniqueness to create a brand.
Yeah, and and being in the clothing industry, it's dressing the part is very important. It's funny because one of the things I'm known for, and I should have wore it today, but everybody knows you're gonna see me in a hoodie. Like I'm not, like if I'm in a suit, somebody's getting married or somebody died, and like I'm in a hoodie. Now they're not cheap hoodies, but I'm in a hoodie. Like I'm in marketing. I don't got to show up in why am I showing up in the shark suits? Like I don't need to. I'm gonna have fun. I'm in my sneakers, I'm in my hoodie, and that's my thing, right? But and I don't want to get in trouble with the Hermes belt guys, but to me, add something to that. Like, what am I remembering you by? Right? And there's sort of and part of your brand is also your visual identity, right? It goes along with your logos and your colors and all that stuff and everything that's fun. But there's nothing wrong with being known as a guy that guy's always got that red jacket on. That guy's always got those yellow sunglasses. Or that guy drives that pink Porsche. Like, it's visual identity, right? Is it separates you from looking like everybody else. And differentiation is so important when it comes to, branding. One of the biggest things that I did with Nav, and I keep relating it back to him, when we first started working together, I basically no more suits and ties. I don't want to see it anymore.
Really?
Like, no more. This is what you're wearing now. He's got diesel jeans on and he's wearing Jordans and and he's got his superfan jerseys. Stop looking like the corporate fan that we all hate sitting in the front row. I want if you're gonna be the super fan, be the super fan. Embrace the team, embrace the colors, embrace everything. So his visual identity now is that super fan jersey. He's got sneakers on, jeans on. So when you see him, oh, that guy's nuts about this team, right? When he wants to be Hyundai dealer, go put on the suit and tie. And I really looked at it like being a superhero. It's like Superfan or Superman. Clark Kent's working the newspaper. Superman's not flying around with a suit and tie and shirt. So I kind of gave him that, analogy to what I need him to do when he's Superfan. Take off the shirt and tie. The jersey should be underneath. And it's the same when you're doing any sales. To me, have a little style to yourself. What's that one thing that you're adding to your outfit that is going to make me remember you, differentiate you, and it's in the long run, it's only going to help, because these are visual reminders of how I felt when I dealt with you, right? And that an emotional connection is the name of the game. You emotionally connect with somebody, they're yours for life. And that's what separates a good transaction from a great transaction.
So Rinku, when he is in the dealership, and planning to be there for the day or whatever it is, he is going to be dressed in a suit or other work clothes. He's not dressed as super fan at that when he's there, or do people still go there because they want to see him in his super fan outfit?
The problem is it's super comfortable. So, but he's dressed as super fan all the time. I mean, he might not wear the jersey, but he'll have our own t-shirts on, and he'll have his super fan gear on, and it's just comfortable. And but if he's got a meeting, he's got execs coming, jackets on, shirts on, maybe not a tie anymore. I mean, that those days are gone, but yeah, he'll class it up a little bit, but it's very hard going back to dress shoes from Jordan. So I'll tell you that much.
That's for sure.
So Rinku, we talked a little bit in the other episode about the culture that the Raptors are creating, about that atmosphere, and you really see this when you go to the States, and I think by and large the Raptors are doing an amazing job too. But you go see a NFL game in the States, and you have the tailgating, and you have the jets flying, you have the pre-show, and you have the halftime shows, and it just it's marketing on a completely different level. They're creating, fans for life. They're creating this whole culture and atmosphere, and the Raptors are doing the same thing. But how can we take some of that and how can we transfer it into our business?
It's very interesting because when you really look at it, what are they doing? Right? It's all different touch points with their fan base.
Yes.
Right? You can just come to a game, but even in the
One touch
game,
point, right?
there's multiple touch points to the fan base, right? You got your cheerleaders going on, you got your mascot running around, you've got your giveaways happening, right? It's not just show up and sit there and watch the game, right? Then what the NFL does really well is before you even get to the game, you're already a part of the whole experience, right? And I was just at the game Sunday, although my team lost, so I wasn't too happy. But you're there at 9 a.m., and you're already a part of the whole experience, and it's all the different touch points. And one of the things that I would say to real estate agents is, if you look at it from that perspective, right? What are your touch points to your clientele?
Right. The
Is it
one at
just
your
your emails?
gift basket at Christmas time, right?
Is your basket at Christmas time? Is it your emails that keep, badgering them with listings and everything like that? What are all your touch points? Because there are a lot when you start thinking about it, right? Like, and then you start going down the road of experiential marketing. You start going around, like even with social media, there's multiple ways to do social media now. Like, is your social media just listings? Right. And there's nothing wrong with it if that's the way you want to project yourself. But you're so, because I do know some agents that don't want to be so personal on social media, and which is great. But social media is just a touch point,
That's
right?
all it is. Yep.
Flyers, sponsorships, partnerships. Like there's so many, when you start expanding sort of that circle of how you can connect to your consumer and your clients and potential clients, like it can get very overwhelming, that when you really start thinking about all the things you can do, right? And but you just got to figure out what works for you, what you like doing, what you have budget to do. What again, that comes down to your passion, right? If why sponsor a race, indie race, if you don't like anything to do with racing, right? But somebody that loves racing, maybe you're going to sponsor that indie race, and your clients are going to come from that, right? Because you have a shared passion, right? There's, that you got to look at all the different touch points, right? Yeah, and to finish off, that look at all the different touch points. I mean, it's all there. Like, how many real estate agents have loyalty programs, right? It's one of the hardest things to do in real estate, but could work for you, could not, might not work for you. There's so many opportunities to get in front of existing customers for future business and or attract new customers. But again, it's that emotional connection that you can make, right? NAV doesn't meet everybody at the dealership, right? We meet people all over the place because our brand gives us the opportunity to get into that room. Our brand isn't just about selling cars. Our brand is a bigger holistic message. So we can get into those rooms and we can use different touch points with, potential customers, and indirectly, of course, it helps as dealerships, but more so it builds the following with the super fan. So when I decide, I want to do a camp, I've already got 300 kids lined up before I even start the camp, right?
In fact, when you really think about it, Rinku, like a Hyundai dealership or the Hyundai brand doesn't really align very well with the NBA, right? Like you don't see NBA players driving Hyundais, right? So that brand separation, I think, was really smart and part of being part of the bigger picture.
Yeah, but it's funny though, like the product's getting much better now. And so there's a couple guys that actually have, when they come into town, they'll grab the Hyundai and they'll drive off with it, right? And they're like, wow, like this, and they'll step in, they'll be like, this is a Hyundai, right? I mean, the product is just phenomenal now. I mean, and Genesis brand as well, but yeah, I mean, again, it just comes down to like, there's no rules to this game, right? It's what are you comfortable doing? What are you comfortable with talking about? How are you comfortable putting yourself out there? I know a lot of people that just don't want to see themselves on social media and stories and TikToks, and doing the typical sort of walking from the front door and, hey, let me show you the home, and I've seen some that are cringy, and I've seen a lot that are, okay, cool, that's pretty cool, but to me that's never the only means to market yourself. You can't forget you're marketing a listing. And if I go on your social media and all I see is listing, 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 you're just giving me an abbreviated version of MLS, right? Where's the brand?
Who are you? What do you stand for? Why should I choose you? What differentiates you? What's your promise? Right? And the
Yeah.
consistency.
Your Instagram
Otherwise,
shouldn't look like a catalog.
yeah, otherwise you're making a statement that you should hire me just because I have a lot of listings,
Which
right?
which which could work as well,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna
right?
say there was this one agent in Oakville, Colleen Pickett. I'm gonna say her name because and this is before I got my license. One of my neighbors was selling a property, and she would come in, and all she had was a binder like this thick, and it was all the listings she would put on the table. And these are all the listings I sold in the last year, like literally a binder this thick. And like you would pick up the binder and you're like, well, if you sold these 150 properties in Oakville in my neighborhood, then you must be good, right? And that was her entire listing presentation.
And there's nothing like, at the end of the day, you're also in, that's how she builds her trust, right? I'm not new to the game. you know, Here's 150 listings I've sold, right? That's trust and credibility, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Like I said, there's no rules to the game, right? I mean, ultimately, she's got to know what she's doing. She's got to be great personally. She's got to have, great rapport with people for her to be able to get those listings. That's her door opener, right? And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, that's what she wants out of, her real estate career. Great. Some people want something different. Some people want, to build that brokerage, and some people want to just enjoy, if I can get 10, 20 listings a year, I'll be happy, right? And again, there's no issue with it. The whether she goes outside of Oakville or whether she goes, that's strategy, and that's where, you think, okay, what do I want in 5 years? Right? Is my 5 years just being able to sell? I just want to be able to do 40 listings a year. All right, cool. This is how I'm going to do it. Here's my binder. Here's what I've done. You can go with the next guy, but they haven't done what I've done in this community, right? And that's marketing strategy. You don't have to be super fan, to have a successful career, successful business, right?
Yeah, but listings sold is better than advertising listings, because my first question, I see people just showing their listings. It's like, why haven't you sold any of these things yet? Why are they still active listings? So, show me what you sold as opposed to what you're having trouble selling.
Yeah. Yeah, and listing sold is that's you obviously have market expertise, right? So, that's somebody I'm going to look for if I'm in in the buying or selling market, right? I'm definitely choosing that person over somebody that would come to me with 10 listings and they've only done 2 transactions. All right. So yeah, but there's a lot to look at, a lot of variables that are in play when you are choosing a realtor. From a realtor's perspective, you got to, you do what works for you. What's authentic, right? For her, it's a great message.
It
Right.
is,
And
but
to me, I take that message across multiple platforms. Sure, the binder is one thing, and that's great, take that message across multiple platforms.
what really interests me about this whole situation is the longevity of the message, right? And building that um that fan base and leaving that legacy, because I can share with both of you guys that Colleen Pickett is retired, and I think there's probably very few people in the industry that remember her name, right? So Rinko, we're gonna have you back in the next episode, and we're gonna get into what it actually takes to build a super fan and leave that legacy, because I think realtors struggle with this. There is no retirement party for realtors. There is no legacy. And I think that's something that our industry needs to be a little bit more cognizant about. And I think as we jump deeper and peel back more layers, I'm really excited to kind of talk about that when it comes to creating superfan, what that actually takes. And superfan has been going to basketball games for how long now? Like, it's been what,
Since
over
1995.
1995, like over almost 3 decades is
Yeah.
what it took to build this brand. And I think as business owners and as real estate professionals, we need to have a long-term approach of, hey, where are we going to be in 20 years? What kind of legacy are we going to leave on the market? What kind of legacy are we leaving on our customers? Right? And that's what I want to discuss next. So thank you, Rinka, for being here.
Sure.
Rinku Ghei from Push Marketing. Really appreciate
Group.
you being on the podcast, and we'll have you back on the next episode.
Sounds good.
Thanks so much.